Hi again. In this episode, we're going to talk about where do I put my money so I won't lose. A lot of people would love to know what I'm going to teach you in this episode, but I've learned this because of 45 years of experience where I had over 3,000 clients in the market back in 1974 to 1980. They were never happier than when I got their money out of the market and I put it into what I'm going to show you here, because you're going to be blown away with what you can do that is so simple. I'm going to take the complex and make it simple to empower you, and you're going to learn some things that even the mega wealthy take a while to learn. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. I've been doing this for more than 4.5 decades. And I've mentioned in other episodes that from 1974 to 1980, I ended up being responsible for over 3,000 clients in 13 Western states. And we had their money in a diversified portfolio of mutual funds in the market. And there were some times they would earn 10, 15, 20%, but other times they would lose 5, 10, 15%. And that's what I was taught. Oh, just hang in there. Well, then I learned about indexing and how to protect money for my clients and for myself and get it out of the market, but link the returns to what the market is doing without any risk. Does that sound something that you would like to learn about? And I want to empower you here to understand something that a lot of advisors don't even understand. A 25% loss in your money in the market, okay, let's say you have 100,000 or a million, doesn't matter, and the market drops 25%. So 100,000 is now only worth 75,000. A million is only worth 750,000. Well, in order for that 75,000 to come back to break even, 100,000, it has to be followed by a 33% gain. And people go, what? No, what's 33% of 75,000? 25,000. So when you lose 25%, you have to make 33% just to get your money back. What if you lost 33%? If 100,000 went down to 66 or 67,000, now that has to have a 50% gain. 50% of 67,000 is 33,000 in order to make back what you lost. But a lot of people back in 2008 lost as much as 50%. So if you had $1 million and it lost 50% down to $500,000, and this happened, a 50% loss has to be followed by 100% gain. See, 500,000 has to double, 100% has to double in order to get back to where you were. So let's just eliminate the losses in the first place. And so this Wall Street myth is what I call it, where Wall Street gets away with saying, well, the market was up 50% during this period, then it went down 50%. It went up 50 and down 50. Do you know that they get away with saying that 4-year average would be 0%? That's just flat. That's just zero. No, it isn't. Watch. If you had 100,000 in the market and the market went up 50%, it's now worth 150,000, right? Now let's say the market loses 50%. You're not down to 100, you're losing 50% of 150,000. That's 75. You're down to only 75,000. Now the market rebounds 50%. You're only up 50% from 75,000. That's $112,500. Now the market loses a 50%. You're down to $56,000. You've lost nearly 44% of your original principal of 100,000. The market went up 50, down 50, up 50, down 50, and most people, even Wall Street, gets away with saying, oh, it's just flat. It's just zero. No, it isn't. You lost 44% of the original amount you started out with. And people go, I've never thought of it that way. A few years after 9/11, when the market had come back, it had dropped 40% and it came back 40%. I was watching NBC and they had 3 financial gurus on there. And they all said, oh, the market dropped 40, but it's come back 40. Well, people were still going, well, what's wrong with my advisor? I'm still not even back to break even. I haven't even made back what I lost. No, because a 40% loss cannot be followed by a 40% gain and bring you back to break even again. You have to have over 65% gain in order to make up for that loss. So this is where indexing comes in. Indexing is where if we started out with, let's say, that $100,000 and the market went up 10%. And then the market goes down 10, up 10, down 10, up 10, down 10. A lot of people say that's zero. No, it isn't, because at the end, you would only have 95,000. You lost some of your principal, because when it goes up to 110, you lose 10% of that, you lose 11,000. That takes you down to 99. So up 10, down 10, up 10, down 10. That's what happens when your money's in the market. But by using indexing, when the market goes up 10%, I make 100, I make 10,000, I have 110. But then if the market goes down, I don't lose anything that year. I didn't make anything, but I didn't lose, because my money's not in the market. It's linked. I don't make anything. So in these 5 years here, I don't make a dime in this example, but I don't lose. So there's only 5 years I made money, 5 years I didn't make anything, but I didn't lose. What's the difference? I have 161,000 up here versus only 95,000 down there. See, they say this is an average return of 10%. The actual return is actually a negative almost 5% in the market. Whereas up here we have 161,000, which is dynamic. That's indexing simplified. That's a 61% gain in your money by using the strategy of indexing. So that's indexing simplified. Now people say, how do you do that? So are you ready to learn something that many savvy financial planners don't understand? I can stump them in less than 60 seconds. Here we go. I'm going to explain indexing in a simplified manner. When I put my money into a maximum funded life insurance contract, I use indexed universal life. It is structured to benefit me for tax-free accumulation of my money and tax-free income. So in other episodes, I talk about E.F. Hutton being the brainchild behind this. And what you're doing is you're structuring the insurance policy with the least amount of death benefit the IRS will let you get away with, and you're putting in the most money as fast as the IRS allows, and it turns into a tax-free cash cow. And you're going to see how I've earned 7 to 10% rates of return net, cash on cash, totally tax-free. I'm going to simplify by saying I have $1 million accumulated in my max funded life insurance contract in those cash values. Now, this could have happened with years of socking away 10,000 or 6,000 a year or 20,000, because that will grow to $1 million. But let's just take a snapshot in time, and let's say I have $1 million in my indexed universal life insurance policy. Now, the insurance company has what is called a general account portfolio, and this is where they put their money. They have billions and trillions of dollars, and they have to be very careful. They have to put it in very safe investments, AAA and AA bonds, mortgages on shopping malls and skyscrapers, but they only loan about 40 or 50% loan to value. They don't take risks. If the market in real estate dives, they are protected. And so they are very safe. They have weathered the Great Depression and through recessions with flying colors. When banks go under, in the Great Depression, 40% never opened their doors again. Real estate dropped as much as 80%. These insurance companies, legal reserve insurance companies, came through with flying colors. So they have a general account portfolio yield. When Universal Life first was thought of, it wasn't an insurance company, it was E.F. Hutton. They were a brokerage firm, and they said, hey, we can provide greater liquidity, safety, and predictable rates of return by using life insurance by structuring it the opposite way. Let's take the least insurance and put in the most money. And so back then, interest rates were high. I mean, mortgages on your house were anywhere from 12% up to 21%. Bank CDs were paying 10%. I never earned less than 11 3/4 up to 15.5% from 1980 to 1990 on my life insurance policy. Lately, we've been in a low interest environment, okay? But the average over 30 years has been, the range has been between 5 to 17%, but I've averaged between 8 to 9. Okay, the last 10 years, interest rates have been low at the shooting of this educational episode. Many times the general account portfolio might be around 6%, 5, 5.5, 6, 7. So let's just use 6. The insurance company is earning 6% on their billions of dollars. Now, one of the companies I put my money in manages $2.5 trillion. Do you know how much money that is? That's as much as the IRS collects in income taxes in an entire year. That's one insurance company. On that general account portfolio of those billions or trillions, they're earning 6%. Now, they need about one of those percentage points for them, for their profit, and they're netting 5. So that's what I get is 5. So any year that I feel like bearish about America, I think we're headed for a recession, I can just say, just pay me the general account portfolio rate. In this example, that'd be 5. That's 50,000. Now I can let it sit there and compound tax-free, or I can take that out if I wanted to live on the income, and that's 50,000 of tax-free income because it's not deemed earned, passive, or portfolio income. Those are the only 3 types of income you pay income tax on in America since 1986. That's covered in another episode. But let's say I feel bullish about America this year. I can link to an index anytime I want. And I'm going to do this with a 1-year point-to-point. So what I'm doing is telling the insurance company this year, I don't want my million at risk. I don't want to lose, but you can do whatever you want with this 50,000. I will relinquish the for sure 50,000, but don't lose my million. So I link to, let's say, the S&P 500. That's an example of one of 10 to 15 indices that these insurance companies will offer you. So let's say the S&P at the beginning of the year was 1,000, and 1 year later, it's 1,100. That's a 10% increase. The insurance company must pay me 10%. It's tax-free. It's 100. How can they do that? My money's not in the market. What did they do with that 50,000 of interest that I relinquished? They bought upside options. They're the number 1 purchaser of options in the world. They buy them hourly. If the market goes up, that 50,000 doubles to 100. They're not out anything. They're smart. If it triples to 150, they pay you 15% or 150,000. But if the market loses, like if it lost 40% like 2008, I don't lose my million. I only gave up the 50. Why do I do that? Well, because I can then participate without the fear of losing money. That's called a 0% floor. If the market goes down, I earn nothing. Sometimes 0 is hero though, but they might cap me at 15%. Back then, the caps in the decade from 2000 to 2010 were maybe 16%. Do you know that in that worst decade from 2000 to 2010, there were only 5 up years compared to 5 down years? That means 5 years I would have earned 0, but I wouldn't have lost. Everybody else in America lost 40%. Only 2 years did I cap out at 15, but my average was 7.23%. Hey, that's pretty good. The rule of 72 says my million, okay, you divide 7.23 into the number 72, and your money will double every 10 years. At the end of 10 years, my million was worth 2 million. Everybody else in America hadn't even recovered their million yet. And I had already doubled my money using indexing. That's the power where sometimes when the market goes down, you're giving up interest, but if the market goes up, they bought upside options. There are some years I have earned 25%. Another episode will show you how if you will allow them to take up to 7.5% fee, people have earned as much as 55%, like 2009. You can choose whatever you want, but I like to protect my money so I don't lose, and that's why sometimes 0 is hero, and then be able to participate in upside potential. That's indexing. So did that illustration sort of blow you away? Well, what I haven't shared with you, that's just one of 15 options. You could choose a 2% floor. Hey, I don't want to earn nothing if the market goes down. I want to make 20,000 on my million. That's called a 2% floor, but that means the cap comes down to 13. Do you know the average has been 8.11% over a 30-year period using that one? Sometimes I say, oh no, I'll give you the full 50,000 to buy options, insurance company. I'll take the 0% floor, but if you have the cap at 13, they will pay me 140% of whatever the S&P does. What? Well, because I've said, no, you can pay me up to 13 and then I'm fine. Do you know when people say, which one did you use, Doug? All of them. I can take my million and have 300,000 in this one, 300,000 linked to that one, 300,000 in that one. My money's not in the market. I could leave the last 100,000 just earning 5%, but I've averaged 9.62%. Would you like to earn 9.62% tax-free and not lose when the market crashes? I just showed you how, and it's called indexing. I would encourage, if you want to learn more, click on this episode so you see how this all comes together. I want you to experience the prosperity you deserve.